Welcome to the INFJ Visionary. This is the INFJ Visionary. Today's topic is perfectionism. I've had my struggles with this, and I think a lot of what constitutes a problem with perfectionism is based on your ideas of what is possible, what should be, and who you are. All those things combined. I personally define myself as a functional perfectionist. I can see where perfection could be possible, but I realize that it never really is going to be completely perfect. And I think a smart person knows when to cut and run, when to just let it be and move on to the next project or idea or whatever it is that you're attempting to perfect. Now, I create a lot of stuff in my life. I've created a lot of music. I create a lot of art. I'm creating this video broadcast for you. I've written books, and all of these things are just expressions of who I am, and none of them is perfect. Not one of them is perfect. I was lucky enough when I was young I didn't really enjoy working for other people or having to go to a job every day just to make enough money to, pay my bills and stuff. But, life provides us with opportunities, and a lot of times those opportunities come about because of circumstances. And I had a circumstance where I had a job. I had this job for a long time. And the guy I worked for, he wasn't a bad guy, but he had two really big problems. His biggest problem was procrastination, but maybe we'll talk about that later. Let's focus on perfectionism. That was his other problem. And those two together, let me tell you, that's a deadly combination. You don't want that. You don't want to be anywhere near it. If you're going to have perfectionistic tendencies, you better get on top of things and get as much done as soon as you can. Because what happens if you're a procrastinating perfectionist is you're just completely immobilized and ineffective. And I don't think that's why the universe put us here. In fact, I think the universe put us here to act, to do things, to be involved with the world and make things, interact with others, help other people, help ourselves, the whole bit. Anyway, getting back to this gentleman, we'll call him Jacob, okay? Jacob. He was like I said, not bad, but he could be had a lot of charm. He was personable. But he had an inner drive to self-destruct, I believe, and I saw this manifested with his perfectionism all the time, where we had to match paint chips for our products there that were given to us by designers. And there's a certain amount of latitude and leeway. As a matter of fact, if you go into any room that's been designed, you'll see variants, but I swear he would make us waste hour after hour just making the tiniest, insignificant changes to something where we would end up maybe just going back to what we had in the first place to get the job done. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. Get the job done. Now, maybe you have a problem with perfectionism, maybe you don't, but either way, you should be doing stuff in this world. You shouldn't just be scrolling, especially if it's doom scrolling. You shouldn't just be sitting there in front of YouTube taking in one video after the next, even though it's probably a wonderful video like this one here. No, you should be fully engaged with life. Find something that you think is good to do and then do it. And do a lot of it. And do it, hopefully, if you've got a certain amount of intelligence, you might have a shot at getting close to mastery, and that's its own sort of reward. Let me tell you, I've got there in the music arena and in the art field. I've achieved a certain level of mastery. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest it's ever been, but I'm proud of what I've done, and I know it's good. And that's another thing. Sometimes, from the INFJ standpoint, I think we don't get the acknowledgement that we deserve quite often because, well, what you really got to remember is everyone's like in their own private matrix, basically. Matrix seems to be a real prime word for this channel, so we'll just embrace it and go with it. But everyone's in their own life that they've created. They care mostly about what's happening with them and what's happening with the things that they think should be transpiring or not transpiring or whatever, or they don't even have anything they want to get done. They just, are living their life. Yeah. And then along comes you, and, how do you fit into their life? Well, can you teach them? Probably if you're the INFJ, you probably could teach everybody something. You have insight. But in a lot of cases, they don't really get where you're coming from. And I think what's interesting about being an INFJ is that we can make friends easily. And I think a lot of times people will tend to think well of us. Um, but it's sort of cautiously, right? Because they don't really understand this. They don't really totally know what our motivations are. Um, I can speak for myself, but I think a lot of other INFJs are the same in that we don't necessarily reveal a lot about ourselves or our history or what we actually care about. We use our extroverted feeling component to kind of keep people in check and make sure that the social interactions that we engage with are serving our purposes. And so, in that way, I don't think we garner a lot of antipathy from other people. That said, though, we don't necessarily get that close to them either. They might want to be close to us. I'm speaking for myself, of course, not speaking for you. I could want to get close to people, but I can kind of project and see everything that would come out of having a close relationship with that person. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be more exhausting than fulfilling. And this is not to put anyone down. I'm not putting others down. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. Just like everyone else, I'm trapped in my own life. I'm in my own matrix, and I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. But yeah, people don't get us. They don't get us like they get others. And just speaking for myself, as the INFJ, we could be the school president. We could be perceived as being very popular and well liked. But 9 times out of 10, when that's going down, it's just you're using your extroverted feeling function to smooth out all your social relationships. But no one's really getting an actual look at what's inside your brain, what's going on, what are you really thinking about, what do you really feel about things. Maybe you're lucky and you have a close friend and they know. And if you don't, you should really try to cultivate that friend. Pray for it, I would say. Not that, again, I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in the power of prayer. I think we're all manifested individual aspects of the one God, the one creator, universe, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't need to be defined. How can we define something greater than ourselves anyway? If you think about it, it's just a waste of time. But I do believe that we are part of that greater thing, and that it's basically chopped itself up so it wouldn't be lonely. It could experience things that it didn't know would happen, and thus making its existence in general more fulfilling and exciting. And getting back to perfectionism, just to wrap this up. So it's important that you do things. It's important you be engaged with life, but it's equally important that you learn how to let things go. There is no such thing as perfection. You know that's true. But your interior sense of what perfection is a light that can guide the rest of the world, because you know the difference between shit and shinola, okay? And a lot of people don't. And you've got to carry the torch, you know? You've got to be the one to, actually, like I said, most people don't want to hear it, but there will be times and places, like maybe this broadcast, I'm putting that out there. Maybe somebody wants to hear this message. And if they don't, that's fine. It didn't cost too much. So until I come back with another broadcast for your education, intimation, and to provide explanations. This is the INFJ Visionary signing off.